2:14 local time, Tehran. Somewhere above western Iran, at 35,000 feet, the only sound inside the cockpit of an F-35I Adir callsign Zohar 1 is breathing. Slow, steady, oxygen-fed breathing through a mask. The panoramic display bathes everything in soft green, a grid of data points, threat rings, and terrain contours scrolling in silence. No radio chatter, no radar pings, nothing. The jet is a ghost riding a river of cold air, and the pilot intends to keep it that way. Here's the thing. Right now, Tehran's entire integrated air defense network, Russian-built S-300S, homegrown Bavar 373 batteries, dozens of early warning radars scanning every cubic mile of Iranian airspace, all of it is on, all of it is searching, and none of it can see Zohar 1. The weapons systems officer in the rear seat reads the number off his display like a man checking his own pulse. Radar cross-section, 0.001 square meters. That's a golf ball, a titanium, stealth-coated, $70 million golf ball cruising at Mach 0.9, and Iran's finest hardware is looking right through it. Think of it this way. Imagine you're standing in a pitch-black warehouse. You've got one flashlight. You can flick it on for 1/10 of a second, just enough to glimpse what's ahead, and then kill it before anyone spots the beam. That's how Zohar 1 navigates enemy airspace. Every electronic emission is a risk. Every radar pulse the jet doesn't send is another second of survival. You move through the electromagnetic spectrum the way a burglar walks across a glass floor, weight distributed, deliberate, and praying nothing cracks. Below them, 18 million people sleep in and around Tehran. Air defense operators sit behind their screens, watching for exactly this kind of incursion. They have been trained for it, drilled for it, told their system could handle it. They were about to find out in the most unforgiving way possible that it couldn't. And Zohar 1 still had 400 miles of hostile airspace left to cross. 2:21 local time, 190 miles west of Tehran. 5 minutes and 12 seconds of perfect silence. That's how long Zohar 1 had been gliding through Iranian airspace without a single alert, the kind of quiet that makes a pilot's neck itch. Because it means either everything is working, or everything is about to stop working. Then, the RWR chirped. One dry, clipped bip in the headset like a smoke detector running low on batteries. But in this cockpit, over this country, that sound might as well have been a gunshot at a funeral. Contact! The WSO's voice came flat, clinical. Passive scan detected. X-band. It's sniffing us. Here's where things get interesting. That wasn't a targeting radar. It was a passive station, a mobile unit sitting dark in the desert, not broadcasting, just listening. Think of the difference between a guard dog that barks at everything and a cat sitting perfectly still in the corner, watching. This was the cat. Iran had scattered these passive receivers across their western frontier units that don't give away their own position, they just listen for disturbances in the electromagnetic noise. And something about Zohar 1, maybe a navigation update, maybe a millisecond data burst to the satellite overhead had given that station something to chew on. Not a lock, not yet, but a sniff. And the pilot had about 4 seconds to decide what to do about it. Option 1, stay dark, trust the stealth. Accept the risk that this station might correlate enough data to hand off a rough track to an active SAM battery, the kind of handoff that ends with a missile in the air. Option 2, flip on the APG-81, the F-35's own radar, and fry that station's electronics like an egg on Arizona asphalt. Except the moment you light up an active radar deep inside Iranian airspace, every air defense node from Tabriz to Bandar Abbas knows exactly where you are. You'd be swatting a mosquito with a flare gun in a room full of people looking for flare guns. The pilot's thumb hovered over the radar toggle. 2 seconds. 3. Then the AWACS broke silence. The E-3 sentry orbiting 200 miles back over Iraq, watching everything, saying nothing, until now. Zohar 1, Overlord, hold silent. Let DAS handle it. DAS, the Distributed Aperture System. 6 infrared cameras bolted around the F-35's fuselage like eyes that never blink, feeding into an AI that tracks and prioritizes threats faster than any human could. The jet wasn't blind. It was watching that station right back, in infrared, from every angle, without emitting a single photon of radio energy. Think of it like playing poker. Your opponent just glanced at your cards, but you don't panic, because you've got a mirror behind his head and you've been reading his hand the whole time. Copy, Overlord. Holding silent. DAS tracking. Threat remains passive. The WSO added almost to himself. That radar is basically a lawnmower with a PhD. Silence from the front seat. Then, don't put that in the debrief. The mission computer nudged the flight path a 2-degree correction south, enough to slide out of the station's detection cone without looking like evasion. Zohar 1 pressed deeper. The cockpit went quiet again. But a different kind of quiet now. The kind where you know someone knows you're in the house, they just haven't found which room. And the pilot knew something the Iranian operator didn't. There were 4 more jets behind him. And they were already past the fence. 2:38 local time, directly over Tehran's western suburbs. The DAS saw them before the pilot did. 4 blooms. 4 hot white streaks on the floor display punching up from rooftops, from balconies, from somewhere in the dense residential grid below. MANPADS. Man-Portable Air Defense System shoulder-fired missiles, the kind a single guy can carry up a stairwell, brace against a railing, and send skyward at anything that makes heat. Here's the thing about DAS that most people don't understand. The F-35's floor isn't a floor, not to the pilot. Those 6 infrared cameras stitch together a picture that makes the jet's own belly transparent. You look down between your boots and you see the ground, the buildings, the roads. And right now, the pilot looked down and saw 4 fingers of fire reaching straight up at him. Vampire, vampire, vampire. 4 launches, bearing 180, range 4.2 clicks. Think about that distance, 4.2 kilometers. That's less than the length of a highway on-ramp. At the speed these missiles climb, the math is brutal and simple. The mission computer didn't sugarcoat it. Time to impact, 3.8 seconds. 3.8 seconds. You just spent longer than that reading this paragraph. The pilot broke left, hard. A 7G snap turn that drains blood from the brain and turns your arms into concrete. If you've ever been on a roller coaster that pins you to the seat, multiply that by 3, add the knowledge that 4 missiles are converging on your exact position, and take away the safety rail. Brake left! Brake left! Dispensing! Flares erupted from the jet's belly, white-hot decoys tumbling into the night like dying stars, each one screaming, "Look at me, not him," in infrared. A MANPADS missile is heat-seeking. It chases the hottest thing it can find. The flares gave it something hotter than an F-35 engine to fall in love with. 3 missiles took the bait. They curved away, chasing phantoms. The 4th didn't. On the DAS display, the pilot watched the last missile close the gap. 200 meters. 150. The aircraft shuddered through another G-loaded roll, and the missile screamed past 15 meters below the right wing. 15 meters. That's the length of a sedan and a half. That's the margin between a successful mission and $80 million of burning titanium. Zohar 1. Overlord. Status. The pilot's breathing was ragged. 5 seconds passed. Zohar 1 clean. 4 vampires defeated. Resuming track. A pause. Then the WSO voice still flat but just barely cracking at the edges. 15 meters. Copy. That's not even a good parallel parking job. Silence. Then focus. He was right. Because 200 miles ahead, the target was still waiting. And the air defense network that had just tried to kill them with shoulder-fired missiles was now fully awake, which meant the real SAMs were spinning up. The easy part was over. 2:41 local time over Tehran's Western District. Payback took 11 seconds to set up. The WSO already had the MANPADS team painted. The FLIR forward-looking infrared had been tracking them since the launch. The targeting pod locked on a cluster of hot signatures crouched on a rooftop 6 stories up. On the black and white display, you could see them reloading. They thought they'd missed and were getting ready for a second try. They wouldn't get one. Zohar 1, weapons free on launch origin. Copy. Target confirmed. Pickle. 2 SDB IIs dropped from the internal weapons bay. Small diameter bombs, and here's the thing about these. If you saw one sitting on the ground, you'd think somebody strapped wings to a mini fridge. That's roughly what it looks like. About 6 feet long, 250 pounds, a set of folding wings that pop out after release. It doesn't fall, it glides. No engine, no exhaust plume, no thermal trail for anyone to spot. Just a silent, GPS-guided mini fridge drifting down through the night with $40,000 worth of bad news packed inside. Think about that for a second. The missiles those guys just fired at Zohar 1? Each MANPADS round costs somewhere between $80,000 and $120,000 on the black market. The bomb coming back at them costs a third of that. War is accounting with explosives, and tonight the math wasn't in their favor. On the FLIR, the first SDB punched through the rooftop like it wasn't there. One frame, 6 thermal signatures, and a launcher. Next frame, a white bloom that swallowed the entire building corner. The second bomb hit 3 seconds later the adjacent stairwell, the exfil route. Clean. Splash. 2 impacts. Target destroyed. The WSO zoomed the pod out. Where the MANPADS team had been, the FLIR showed nothing but a hot, shapeless smear fading at the edges. Overlord Zohar 1, threat neutralized at launch point. Resuming primary mission track. Copy, Zohar 1. Nice work. The pilot let out a breath, the first full exhale in maybe 4 minutes. Then the WSO, because he couldn't help himself. 40 grand per bomb. That's a nice apartment in Tel Aviv to delete one Soviet-era launcher held together with duct tape and prayers. Noted. I'm just saying cost-exchange ratio favors us. It always does. Focus up. We're 60 miles from the primary. He was right. The rooftop team was gone, but the noise had consequences. Somewhere in Tehran's Air Defense Command Center, screens were lighting up, phones were ringing, and battery commanders were getting very clear orders to find whatever had just bombed a residential district. Zohar 1 was 60 miles from the target, and the entire network knew something was coming. They just couldn't see it yet. 3:47 local time egressing Iranian airspace. The WSO ran the targeting pod back over the route one last time. A final receipt? Radar Station 1 gone, Radar Station 2 gone. MANPADS position Alpha thermal smear. MANPADS positions Bravo Charlie Delta same. 6 targets designated, 6 targets erased. The FLIR didn't show wreckage. It showed absence dark spots where hot signatures used to be, cooling into the desert floor like footprints in wet sand. But if you look east on the pod display there, Tehran's refinery district. Every tower, every pipeline, every storage tank still glowing in neat thermal rows. Not one scratch. $18 million of precision guidance to make sure the things that needed to die were the only things that died. The amber fuel warning blinked on. Zohar 1 banked south, climbing through 38,000 feet toward the Persian Gulf. Behind the formation, a thin column of smoke drifted over Tehran's western suburbs, the only evidence that anything had happened at all. Below, the city's lights still shimmered in the FLIR like a circuit board, untouched. Nobody on the frequency said anything for a long moment. The flight crossed into friendly airspace at 3:52. 4 jets, same number that went in. The WSO pulled up the mission summary on his knee display. Total ordnance expended, 6 SDB IIs, 1 FLIR pod. Munitions cost $180,000. Operational cost, $42,000. Still breathing, still employed, still covered under the Air Force's very generous life insurance policy. The radio crackled one last time. Overlord Zohar 1, formation is feet wet, all aircraft accounted for. Mission complete. Copy, Zohar 1. Welcome back. Silence again. The kind that settles in after everything that needed to happen has happened. Then the WSO, staring at Tehran, fading in the FLIR. You know, Tehran's actually beautiful through infrared. The pilot didn't respond for a few seconds. Yeah, just a little expensive to visit.